What does Biden want? Biden wants a phony deal. Obama and Biden concluded that Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want to fight Iran. Let them get a nuclear weapon and we'll try and manage the region. Which is insane. The more people hate America, the more they hate Israel. Because they're very similar in terms of their principles and beliefs. And the more people who hate Israel hate America. Those people who voted against Israel, the Democrats, they hate our country. Omar hates our country. Tlaib hates our country, among several others. Jayapal hates our country. She's the head of the Progressive Caucus. Oh yeah, what are you? I'm the head of the Progressive Caucus. We're progressive, not white supremacists like them. And so I posted something on social media and I said, those 9 who voted the way they voted line up behind the neo-Nazis and the Klansmen. They keep calling people with whom they disagree white supremacists. They're not white supremacists. You support the Constitution, you're white supremacist. I am not going to accept this reinterpretation. I'm not going to accept this destruction of our language and history. So Joe Biden in the White House has done everything he can to undermine Israel. He's tried to humiliate Netanyahu. These NGOs, these non-government organizations, they get involved in politics. They call it, voting activity, but they mean to push it one way or another. Funded by the State Department. They've gone against Netanyahu. And his policies, of course, are very hostile to Israel. Israel's trying to figure out what to do about Iran. They may have to go to war with Iran. And they don't necessarily have the backing of the United States. And so you see a lot of leaks coming out of the White House, probably from his staff, to Thomas Friedman at the Holocaust-denying New York Times and the other friendlies where they plant this stuff. And it's gotten to the point, my understanding is, where the Israelis are now afraid to give top intelligence information to this administration about the Iranians because they'll use it against Israel and leak it to the media. So Israel doesn't attack. What does Biden want? Biden wants a phony deal. Obama and Biden concluded that Iran's going to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want to fight Iran. Let them get a nuclear weapon and we'll try and manage the region. Which is insane. Israel's taken the position, we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. If they get a nuclear weapon, they will be able to blackmail our every move in this country. And we cannot allow them to blow our cities off the face of the earth in 30 seconds. So we will prevent that before it happens. Biden doesn't support that. They talk about a two-state solution. That two-state solution means that Israel basically has to give up its ancestral homes, Judea and Samaria. The West Bank. There is no West Bank. They don't want to do that. And so there's other things they don't want to do. How can you trust the Hamas and the Palestinian terrorists? How can you trust them? I think the test case was the Gaza Strip, right? So what happened? They had one election. Hamas won. They haven't had an election since. Iran pours its missiles into Gaza and other equipment and so forth. And the terrorists, Hamas, the Palestinians, they build these tunnels into Israel, unless the Israelis find them, and they have this unbelievable new technology to find them, because they want to send in their guys late at night to destroy Jews. All this stuff's going on. And Biden acts like it's not. And then, of course, they're trying to reform their judiciary. Their Supreme Court is nothing like any Supreme Court in any country in the free world, or even the unfree world. What happened was, imagine a 15 Ruth Bader Ginsburg taking control of the court. And imagine that they get to choose, along with the equivalent of the American Bar Association, which is in their pocket, the replacements when they retire. Knesset doesn't choose them, Prime Minister, no, they get to choose their own replacements. And imagine that they've decided that they will entertain any petition they want to entertain. You don't have to have standing. You don't have to have a basic review process. If they want to get involved in something, they get over 10,000 petitions a year. It could be from the Ernie Grabatsky down the street, a complete schmo. It says, and they'll take it. Why? because they want to get involved in the case. So they've been involved in religious issues. They've been involved in national security issues. They've been involved literally in strategic military decisions. And when the Knesset, their parliament, says, wait a minute, you are undermining us, they say, too bad, what are you going to do about it? Because it's set up in a way where you can't impeach a judge, where they don't have a constitution. They've created what they call these basic laws. And the court thumbs its nose, says, well, that's what we're going to do. It's actually even worse than that. So Biden is trying to destroy our Supreme Court. He attacks our Supreme Court. He attacks our justices on the Supreme Court, right? He makes it a campaign issue. They didn't give us the abortion thing or the school student loan thing and so on. So he's destroying the independence of the institution and driving down public support for the institution. Did Bibi Netanyahu call Biden and tell him to cut it out? Well, that's what Biden's doing to Bibi Netanyahu, and Bibi Netanyahu is not trashing the Supreme Court. They're going through a civil, legitimate, democratic process to try and rein the court in to make it more similar to our court, to our system. But the idea that Biden would interfere with that, the idea that Biden would tell Israel how to defend itself or whether to defend itself is appalling. He wouldn't speak to the Iranians the way he does this. He's sitting there with Aragon shaking his hand. The guy's a killer. He's begging to have a meeting with Xi before the election. He wants to be seen with Xi. They love Castro in Cuba. They do nothing about Moderna in Venezuela. But Israel, the only Jewish state, they're like hyper-focused on this. And they always have been. Now quickly, Franklin Roosevelt. There's a lot of information about Franklin Roosevelt that's been censored because Franklin Roosevelt, the Democrats feel, is the most important figure, the iconic figure in the history of the Democrat Party, because he fundamentally altered our economic system and our governing system and our Constitution. And that's what they want. So the fact that he didn't lift a finger for blacks for all the years he was in the White House, they pretend he did. He didn't. The fact that he was very receptive to the anti-Semites around him when it came to the Holocaust, what to do about the Holocaust and refugees, is a fact that doesn't show up in the documentaries. The fact that he appointed a huge anti-Semite, Joe Kennedy Sr., to be ambassador to Britain, who was back-channeling with Hitler's staff, which finally forced FDR to tell Joe Kennedy, you need to resign from that position. I'll give you a different one. It makes him the head of the SEC. Makes the guy who made his fortune through insider trading and everything else the head of the SEC. But that's the way the Democrat Party works. So I only point this out to you because I want you to listen to what Kevin McCarthy had to say. Go.
We want to take you now to Washington, where House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is speaking. Let's listen.
America recognized them. But now we have leaders in the Democratic Party. She's not just elected as a Democrat in their conference. She is a leader of their caucuses. And she's making these comments. But think of before what also Congresswoman Omar said. She equated the U.S. military and Israel security forces with Hamas and the Taliban. She said support for Israel is all about the Benjamins. Supporters of Israel have an allegiance to a foreign country. Tlaib, what did she say inside their conference? That she had a calming feeling when discussing the Holocaust. Who in their right mind could even say that? Betty McCollum introduced a resolution to condemn Israel and support Palestinian terrorist organization. These are just multiple Democrats on multiple times consistently saying anti-Semitic remarks, and it has got to stop. These are all individuals in the Democratic Conference. Do they think Israel is an evil state? Well, if they believe differently, they should take action against their own for the comments coming from their leadership within their own Democratic Party, and that's wrong. Your question about RFK, I disagree with everything he said. The hearing that we have this week is about censorship. I don't think censoring somebody is actually the answer here. I think if you're going to look at censorship in America, your first action to censor them probably plays into some of the problems we have.
Did you try to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to Congress before inviting President Herzog to speak, given the criticism from the right that President Biden's visit with Herzog is him snubbing Netanyahu? And were Netanyahu to come to Congress, would he address a joint session of Congress?
Okay, let's just get history right.
That's enough. RFK with his comments about vaccines and ethnicity. It always amazes me how certain conservatives, pseudo-conservatives really, will cling on or grab on to the latest Democrat kook. Democrat kook. You don't hear me promoting Robert Kennedy, do you? He's a nut.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.